I'm your huckleberry.
This is the Smoking Guns Podcast.
No G, with a Z, POD, Smoking Guns Podcast, back with you on another Monday night. We are a podcast that deals with football in San Antonio, specifically football around the San Antonio Gunslingers of the Indoor Football League. My name is Philip Higginbotham. I'm one of your hosts for this evening of discussion about football and football that we love. I'm joined, as always, by Leo Yamas.
What's up, Smoking Guns Posse? I'm back.
And the head cheerleader, R.C. Woods.
Hello, beautiful people.
Hey, look, we're twinning today.
I know,
Look
we're
at that.
matching.
Look at that. It's a good looking shirt.
We're like twins.
We got to talk about whether we're doing a 25 version of the jersey, because these are the 24 versions of the
That's
jersey.
true.
We got to talk about whether we want to do a 2025. But that's discussion for another time. The San Antonio Gunslingers are 1-2.
Yeah.
After a loss to the Arizona Rattlers, the champion Arizona Rattlers, 63-55. And that was even like that 55 was 48 until the last few seconds, right?
Yeah, it was it wasn't as close as the score would indicate.
Got all kinds of people checking in. Mission Highlighter,
Hey.
Mark Yamaguchi, James Palmer, Jaden Palmer, Weston, bunch of people checking in.
Love y'all.
It was an interesting game. I'm ready to get into it and talk a little bit about it, but first, we always like to start with the experience and what the experience was like. Tina Myers Haddad. Good to see you. Good to see you, young lady. Leo, you were the only one of us that were able to make it out to the first watch party of the year out at Sideliners Grill. Do I have that right? Sideliners?
Yeah, Sideliners Grill over on off Thousand Oaks and was that Intersecting Street? I don't remember, but actually Anderson Pass. Yes, thank you. So we want to know about the watch party. I'll say this: the venue itself, it's a sports bar.
Yeah.
If anybody's been around for years and years, they remember Fatso's Sports Bar, the one I used to frequent on Bandera Road. But as I understand, that this was originally a second Fatso's and is now Sideliners. They got the volleyball courts out back. They had, a lot of space inside, lots of tables, lots of TVs. I mean, it's a sports bar, so it felt really cool to watch a Gunslingers game in a true sports bar, which I don't know if that's happened before. I haven't been to a watch party that I can recall that was in that type of venue, that type of environment, and it was kind of cool. There was a lot of fans there. I think it was a very good turnout for this watch party. We had a little bit of technical issues where at first the sound was a little behind on the stream, but we were able to fix that. Actually, Weston fixed it.
Nice.
Greg had the suggestion on how to fix it, and Weston went and fixed it right away during a commercial break, so it was perfect timing. But other than that, I don't think the people that, by the way, they were super nice, like service-wise. The people there from Sideliners, everyone was great, very nice, very friendly, very welcoming. But I don't think they were prepared for the amount of patronage they had that night, at least when it came to the food service.
Gotcha.
Because food was coming out way after it was ordered. It was cold when it finally got to us. I heard a lot of people complaining about it. Hopefully, I don't know if that's going to be a regular place for the watch parties. Venue-wise, environment-wise, I thought it was excellent. But yeah, there's definite room for improvement when it came to the food service, just for those of you who are wondering.
Sure.
They had prizes. They did raffles. They gave away these cool, Fiesta medals.
Fiesta medals.
Yeah, so got to get
Super
a Fiesta
cool.
medal.
I guess you got to go to watch parties instead of going and seeing Kevin Hart, RC.
Apparently,
Yeah,
that was our
we had a
date
good
night.
time.
Sorry.
We met a new, not a new fan of the Gunslingers, recently started following the show. His name is David. He was sitting there wearing, okay, so when I walked in, I thought he was already there, and I thought he was just looking at quick glance, I thought he was a Seahawks fan because I saw the greens and blues, and no, it turned out he was wearing Gunslingers gear, but the classic San Antonio Gunslingers jersey and hat. I didn't take a close look. I just saw the colors. And then he came and sat with us and introduced himself, and we talked quite a bit. So shout out to David. And he did say he started following our show and listening to the Smoking Guns podcast. He's very familiar with Branded, of course, as well.
Sure.
So he's been to several Gunslingers games. It's not like he's a new fan, but this first time I see him at a watch party. So welcome, David, and thank you for following the show.
In June of 2020, when we first got together with the Gunslingers ownership and Coach Tony Hernandez at the time, we met them at Alamo Distillery. And I remember getting ready for that meeting and being like, what do I wear to this? Because I mean, I don't care. At that point, we weren't going to do a show. Like, we had all talked about it. We were like, we'll go talk to him, but I don't think we're going to do a show. So I wore an old San Antonio Gunslingers USFL shirt. And the owners, the OG3, actually have talked to me about that since, and we're like, we thought you were making fun of us. We thought that you were like ragging on us because we had chosen a name. The story goes that they didn't know they had chose a name that existed.
That existed, yeah. They were totally unaware.
They had no idea about the USFL Gunslingers when they chose and set up the graphic, the logo, and all that kind of stuff. Like, they found out, but they did not know originally. Weston says the management at Sideliners Grill apologized for not being adequately prepared for our crowd. To be fair, we didn't give them much time to prepare. I wasn't sure how many fans to expect, so I think we underestimated. I was sure blown away by how many people came, and I hope we have even more next time. It's always a guessing game.
Right.
And you sure don't want to tell a venue that you're going to have 55 or 100 people show up and have 20. That's really embarrassing. So we fully understand. I think we fully understand, and I hope fans do too, that we'll dial it in and we'll get it better, and things will be better along the way. It's the first time out for the season, and it's such a guessing game. You just never know.
Yeah.
And it's affected by so many outside things that you can't even guess accurately. Is a Spurs game or a Missions game or some other event in town, Fiesta, is any of that going to affect it? Your location of where you have it. This is the first time they've had it there. How many people are going to drive to Henderson Pass?
Weather
isn't it? You never know. You just never know.
Yeah.
James Palmer has been out there before for wrestling events. He says the service was awesome. So was the food, but that was a long time ago. I bet the service and the food is still awesome. They were just a little surprised. What were you going to say, Leo? Nope. I got him right when he needed to cough. Look at that. I'm good at it.
Good timing.
I was going to say, I don't think there's any way Weston could have given a good estimate for how many people were there, because I was surprised. I would say if it wasn't the highest attended watch party, it's got to be in the top 2 or 3. I was really surprised how many people were there when I walked in.
Which is great news.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Right? Because it means that we're making inroads for people to show up. Look, you're always going to have a smaller crowd. Like, you're not going to have your only your most diehard fans will show up to a watch party.
That's us.
I don't know what that says about you and me, RC, because we weren't at the watch party. So, yikes.
Well, it's not every weekend that Kevin Hart comes into town. So there.
That's true. That's true.
And my excuse is that it is truly 3.5 hours to go to.
I think you have a good excuse.
Sideliners Grill. Hey, Mo.
Mo.
I just went back to my Three Stooges days there. Hey, Mo.
And you know, the IFL Network also, as good as it's been up to this point, at least in my opinion, it's easy to just say, I can watch it at home easily,
Right.
and I'm not worried about missing anything or missing the broadcast because it's not going to drop off of YouTube. And so I think also that was surprising because I think I expected a lot of people to just watch from wherever they were. And yeah, that's fine, and that's good for the league actually. But it's also, you know, there's a plus to being at the watch party and around other fans and being able to high five and ring your cowbells, which we were doing, and you know, just enjoy the interaction with other Gunslingers fans. So definitely, hopefully, the attendance keeps up on that. It was a lot of fun.
Well, and I will point out the IFL Network, which has gotten so much conversation about it here in the first 4 weeks. Today, I think we saw a reason, one big reason that the IFL Network has to exist, and that is the other league that we used to play in. Their account got suspended on YouTube or deleted on YouTube. We're not really sure what and why, but it's gone. The NAL's games are not there because they're not in control of their games on that platform. You're not in control of your own content when it's on YouTube. We post this show on YouTube, so I'm not dogging on YouTube, but you're not in control of your own content. YouTube, Google is in control of your content, and if there's a problem, they pull you down, and the IFL needed control of its content, so that precipitated a need for them to have their own streaming service. And you know what comes with streaming service? A fee. Like, they have to pay for it. It has to work. It has to make money. They lose revenue by coming off YouTube because you do make revenue through YouTube, not near what you can make on your own with your own streaming service, but you do make some revenue off of YouTube if you do it right. And so they're going to lose some of that. Plus they have to pay to set it all up. So the IFL Network needed to happen. And if you're still griping about that and you're still not sure and you're still sitting on the fence, man, it has been, I am officially a payer. In fact, I think I've paid twice for it, but I need to figure that out because we got to Friday and I couldn't log into the games on Friday night. They were locked out. Well, that was the end of my 30-day free trial. So I was like, oh, they tried to charge my credit card or something and it didn't go through or something. So I'll go ahead and re-up. And now there's 2 pending charges for the IFL Network on my account. But I'm sure.
You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing the Smoking Guns podcast may have an IFL Network account to give away as a prize.
Woo.
I've considered that as an idea before. Like, you know, we believe in the product so much that we will buy somebody a year of the IFL Network.
I love it.
But we haven't discussed that offline yet. So I know we have the ability
we have to talk about it. Yeah.
We're just talking out loud. It's like our little bubbleheads.
Weston with another paragraph here. I had a conversation on the Gunslinger fan page with someone who was upset about having to pay for a subscription. I saw that, Weston. I had the idea that maybe the league could offer a free subscription with ads. Could be a way to smooth over things with folks that are upset that it's not free anymore. You know, maybe.
I like that idea. I mean, yeah. As long as they don't put those ads on the payers.
Accounts. Yeah. I don't want to pay for it and get an ad. Like I already have to watch the ads for the local market, which is fine. But on a whole, somebody today in a Discord group that I'm part of that talks about IFL a lot was talking about how the NAL was not on YouTube right now, and we were kind of discussing that. And they said the IFL Network has been perfect through the first 4 weeks of the season. No, that's just the broadcast.
Perfect is a stretch.
That's been perfect. Stretch. But I said they've been good to great, and they've been worth the money. Like I've officially paid for it, maybe even twice now, and I'm still okay with the money that I've spent on it. Like I think that's
I am too.
So on the IFL Network on Saturday night, if you were around either Sideliners Grill or you were sitting at home or you have flew to Phoenix, you got to watch the San Antonio Gunslingers take on the champion Arizona Rattlers. And you know, Leo and RC, I think we might have short sold this because not only are they the champions, but what I did not recognize or realize about Dalton Sneed until we got to game time is that guy is a back-to-back champion on 2 teams, their quarterback. He won a championship with Bay Area 2 years ago and then went to Arizona and won the championship last year. He's won 2 championships in a row in the IFL.
Talented.
He's a good quarterback for sure. Before we get into the game and the details,
accuracy.
Yeah, and he can. Yeah, I think the dual threat is what really hurt us a lot. But before we get into that, I have to issue an apology, Philip.
Okay.
I'm gonna just right off the bat tell everybody I know exactly why our San Antonio Gunslingers lost this game, and it's on me. It's my fault.
What'd you do?
And I apologize. I wasn't feeling well last week, as we know. As neither was RC. By the way, welcome back, RC. I'm glad you're feeling better as well.
Thank you.
And so I was not on the show to represent, and I was not here to bring my lucky giant Batman Cup, which, as we know, this Batman Cup is undefeated so far this season. When I have not been on the show gulping from this Batman Cup, we've lost the game.
I see it.
So here I am, returned with the giant Batman Cup, gulping throughout this Smoking Guns podcast episode, and we will win the following game.
So what you're saying
Did you
is
bring it to the watch party?
No, I should have.
That was your mistake right there. That was your mistake.
If you would have just manned up last week and left breathing behind for a couple of hours and been here on the show,
I should have.
We could have won this game.
And you know what made me sick? But because I'm old too, I went to the NCAA. I volunteered over there, and it was a 4-hour shift. And I said, "Oh, I could do that." Well, one, there was a lot of big crowds. Number 2, I am not used to standing on my feet for 4 hours, and I think that just drained me, and it just made me like susceptible to like feeling ucky. So I do apologize for missing last week but I'll blame the NCAA.
Well, here you go. James Palmer telling us, breaking news here. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. He is undefeated when he goes to away games for the San Antonio Gunslingers, and he will be in Tulsa on Saturday night. So, boom, game over.
Yes.
We don't even need to play anymore. James Palmer is going to be there.
Everything is looking good for this week.
We're on target.
Stay on target. That's a Star Wars reference.
Stay on target.
Stay on target. So the San Antonio Gunslingers went out to Arizona and they lost. They lost by 8 points. Probably should have lost by more. There were penalties. There were turnovers. I know Mark Yamaguchi has already brought that up, and we're going to get to some of that for sure.
Yes.
Warren Hubert asking a question, not able to watch the game. He wants to know about differences that we may have seen from the coaching changes, from the coaching change. I do have some thoughts on that, but I want to start with this. Nobody likes to lose. You never like to lose a game.
Of course not. No.
But I have had wins as a Gunslinger fan that made me feel worse than this loss made me feel like on Saturday night. We won a game against West Texas a few years ago that we had no business winning, that we were up in the first half. We lost it all in the second half. We barely hung on by the absolute skin of our teeth and a dropped ball along the end zone by West Texas. The only reason we won that game, I came out of that game feeling terrible about our team and where we were. West Texas was not that good. We let them get back in the game. I felt bad, and we won that game. We lost this game, and nobody likes to lose, but I feel okay with this loss. I don't like it, but I see big things to be positive about. Big positive
We started off
things.
strong. I will say that.
Sure. Oh, this is a great start.
14-0 could have been 21-0 if they'd have given us, if that little girl had gotten out of the way.
Yeah.
fan interference.
Fan interference,
Saved
and
them.
they gave the ball back to the Bay Area Panthers, and they ended up scoring. Now, yeah, I mean, it happens. And
Yeah.
a story that kid will remember for the rest of their lives, like the time that football player
That's
hit
true.
them in the face. That'll be something she remembers for the rest of her life.
That
No,
happens all the time in arena football.
we,
Gotta be ready.
we started out great. It reminded me a little bit. A day later, I turned on the Brahmas game, and I know we don't cover the Brahmas, but we still watch and pay attention to the Brahmas. It kind of reminded me of that because we were up 9-0 before I turned on the Brahmas game, and then that just started just evaporating away all of a sudden as soon as I turned on the game. Gunslingers kind of felt like that too. We were up 14-0 and things felt good, and then we weren't anymore, and things didn't feel good anymore, and we were in a fight.
The
By
Gunslingers
second
lost
quarter,
this
we were
game.
like 14-20.
They lost this game in the second quarter. That's exactly right.
Yep.
They won every quarter except the second quarter. I don't know if you realize that, but the second quarter was
I didn't say more.
26-7 in favor of the Arizona Rattlers. That's when the wheels fell off.
Yep.
And
Right.
you know, the Gunslingers made some adjustments, and they tried to fight their way back in the second half, and they actually won both quarters. But it wasn't enough to recover from that big of a hole that they dug themselves with that 26-7 second quarter. The change in momentum for me happened on the fumble. You know, not to knock Harper for his second fumble in as many games.
It's gonna happen.
But they do happen. And this one wasn't all on him because it was a bad exchange between oh gosh, my brain just stopped. Malik Henry, thank you. Henry and Harper. So, you know, it's the turnovers. Someone mentioned earlier, turnovers were a big part in the loss. I think it was Yamaguchi. And then, of course, the penalties where we lost a key player, you know, our leading tackler, which I know you have some thoughts on. Mm-hmm. And then we also had a very significant injury, a very, very significant injury. And I think that was a key to the game, as we will talk about in a little while. I don't want to jump ahead of ourselves, but
no, I think we can go there. I think you're right. I think this is the big. Actually, this is kind of the linchpin to the whole game to me is where we were defensively. Because if you look at just the scores of our first three games,
says a lot.
You see that we hold them under 30, and then all of a sudden we get blown out for 63, and you go, defense is not as good as we thought, or losing the defensive coordinator and head coach hurt this team, or now we see what a real offense does to this defense. And I don't think any of that is the case. I think the reason our defense is bad is because you took 4 high-performing players off of the defense that we've had for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
exactly.
Ravarius Rivers didn't play. We don't really know why. Eventually, we'll probably hear, but I didn't notice a Ravarius Rivers. If he was there, he was not a factor.
He was a stud last week.
Yorick Jones was on the injured reserve.
Yep.
Jordan Jones got tossed in the second quarter, and I would love to get upset about that and be mad and be like, what do you mean unsportsmanlike conduct? But the presentation of this game from Arizona, no shade really meant to them, but it was poor. This was a poor presentation of a game. They did not do well on the camera work. I was not able to keep up with certain things in the game, and one of the things that I missed was one, if not both, of his unsportsmanlike conduct penalties that got him tossed. So I can't really say he earned it or didn't earn it. I don't know because I couldn't see it.
It's hard to say.
And that's rough. And then we lose our nose tackle as well to injury. That's 4 guys. You only have 8, and you lost 4 of your high performances.
Yeah, and James Palmer has some insider information on the Ravarius Rivers situation. Now, look, James, that's great for him, bad for the Gunslingers. We had heard some rumors, but we don't know for sure. Haven't heard any
We can't
confirmation
confirm
on
or
this.
deny. Let's say that.
But-
We can't
but,
confirm or
yeah,
deny.
James
Correct.
Palmer is hearing the same thing that we kind of had some rumors about, some whispers.
I wonder where he's going in the UFL, because if it's for the Brahmas, I'm okay with that move. I'm not okay
I
with
would
it.
love
We
that.
need it. We need him on the Gunslingers. Like,
Yeah. He was incredible for the Gunslingers, but you want these guys to
yeah,
be successful, and if that means Revere's going to the UFL, then happy for him.
absolutely.
But you
We're happy
mentioned
for that.
losing our nose tackle.
Yeah.
Ellison Jordan goes down. I hope we don't have any details on the injury yet.
No.
He's holding his leg in near the knee area. I don't want to speculate.
Not
The broadcast crew thought it was cramps because they mentioned it. Oh, it looks like a cramp. He started to get up and immediately went back down to the turf. I'm hoping it's something as minor as that, and we can have Ellison back soon. But that was a huge loss for that San Antonio Gunslingers defense.
Yep.
Because if you were watching carefully, Arizona keyed in on that. Arizona turned into a run-first offense. And if you look at the stats, it will show. If you were watching the game and pay attention, so they put in the center, I think, first, Stallworth.
Yeah.
At nose tackle. He normally plays offensive line. And nothing against Stallworth. It's totally different playing offensive line and defensive line, being right there in the middle. But he was getting pushed off the blocks, blown up, trucked back every single play. And the Gunslingers obviously noticed it because they started playing around with the lineup. Someone mentioned earlier that Lacoby Tucker was on defense. What they did was they shifted Warren Thomas over to the nose tackle position and put Lacoby in on the edge. And it was a little bit better, but Arizona kept just chipping away right down the middle, double teaming our guy, whoever was there, whether it was Stallworth or Thomas. They were getting double teamed and just absolutely blown off the blocks. And they were running right up the gut, right up the middle, over and over and over again. That became their offense, and the Gunslingers did not have an answer. They did not have someone to plug that hole in the middle. Arizona recognized it, took advantage of it, and it was huge. It was a huge part of their offense the rest of the game.
Which, great job by Kevin Guy. Kevin Guy is a superstar in this league for a reason. I like him. He's a surly guy. If you watch the broadcast, they interviewed him like 3 times for their broadcast, which, by the way, is really cool that they can interview the coach in the middle of the game and at the end of the game from the booth or have a sideline reporter. That's really cool. As a guy who has some interest in the San Antonio broadcast, that would be kind of neat. Anyway, moving on. Good. He's a surly guy. He's a very Bill Belichick kind of coach. I don't think he's ever been happy about anything that's happened on a football field. I think he's always found something that needs to be changed. The numbers you were talking about, Leo, I think it's important that we bring this up. Total offense was almost even for these two teams. 227 for the Gunslingers, 213 yards for the Arizona Rattlers. We actually outpaced them, but not by enough to get excited about. 14 yards is, whatever. Then you look and break that down a little more. Passing, San Antonio had 201 yards, Arizona 70. Rushing, San Antonio had 26 yards, and Arizona had 143. They found what worked.
That's where they got us.
And they did it. And they did it. And they did it. And they said, we don't think you're going to stop us. And we had trouble with it because we were missing the guy who comes up the middle on the nose tackle, an amazing defensive tackle in Yorick Jones, a run-stopping linebacker in Jordan Jones. All 3 of those guys were missing in this game. And so I don't think this speaks to a coaching change. I don't think this speaks to, this is a real offense that they played against, and now we see what this defense does against a real offense. I don't think it's any of that. I think it's just a matter of we went in there with we only had 4 or 5 bullets in our chamber instead of 2 6-guns ready to fire,
And 2 of our bullets came back. So we were excited about that. Kali and
yes,
for Naquan.
Yeah,
They're back, baby.
As much of a change as you saw in the defense because we were missing some guys, I think you saw almost exactly the opposite thing happen on the offensive side of the ball because our offense looked way, way better than it's looked all season long. And you can absolutely see why it had everything to do with number 5 and number 8. Naquan Murray, 3 touchdowns receiving. Kali Rashad, 2 touchdown returns. And we talked about this a little bit before the show, Leo, but watching him do that backflip on the second return, just the joy I could see in that backflip of I finally got through. He's been trying for a year and a half to get one, to break one, and he finally got 2 of them in the same game. He was super excited about that.
Man, I wish I had my cowbell like next to me right now because I'd be ringing it again. That was so awesome to see. And like when we talked about it before the show, Philip, I'll mention it here for those watching. We had seen that before, but it had been since season 1 in the barn that we had seen that. Because I specifically remember a conversation with the OG3 after a couple of games in the season. They said, we need to talk to him about that. We're going to ask him to not do that ever again because they're worried about him, injuring himself during the celebration. And we hadn't seen him do it since. So even when there was a change in ownership, it became, a concern enough, or I don't know if there was further discussion, but he hadn't done it since. And then all of a sudden, 2 returns, his return back, and see him doing the backflip and instantly recognizing that from, season 1 of San Antonio Gunslingers. That was pretty awesome for those of us that were there to recognize that from Kali. It was great to see him on the field to begin with.
We missed y'all.
Weston said you should have heard the crowd at the watch party when the feed cut off during Kali Rashad's first return. He must have known we missed it, so he did it for us again. He's that guy.
There you go.
Yes, 100.
Absolutely cool. And to see our offense really start clicking and know that it is connected to these 2 guys, Naquan Murray, and there's something else. There's a question that we got asked early on. I hope Warren's still checking out because he said not able to watch the game. Were there obvious differences in the play after the coaching change or no obvious differences? Your question is actually really interesting because I think I could see something, but when you ask if it was obvious, I don't know that it was obvious. And so maybe you 2 can help me. Maybe the other fans here chatting with us today can help me. Did it seem
I think some of the factors that we brought up, the new players coming in, the injuries, the penalties, it all was a combination. Significant, I like that term because I don't say it was significant. I agree with you, Philip. There was a change. I don't know if it was significant because of the other factors.
I felt like all the way around, special teams, offense, defense, that these guys were playing a little looser than they have in a year and a half. And so when you ask, is there obvious changes from, due to the coaching change? I don't know that it's obvious.
Right.
But what I saw were guys that were much more, here's a great word that James uses, comfortable in the way they were playing. And look, can I explain that? Hypothetically, maybe. What if there were a coach that you had leading your team who had the way that he wanted things done? And that's not bad or good. Coaches get to make that decision.
Yep.
But I want you to play the game this way. And that coach is removed out of the equation and they are able to play the game the way they feel most comfortable. Do you imagine that players would be a little more loose and a little freer, have a little more freedom be a little more joyful in the way they play. I don't know that that's the case. I haven't talked to a single player about this. I have talked to several folks that watch the Gunslingers as much as I do, and they said they felt like they saw the same thing. Now, it's not obvious. It's not something you can point to and go, look, right here. There's no metric for this. But am I off? Leo, RC, did you see something along the same lines, or am I just projecting?
I can see it. I think the biggest indicator of what you saw is Kali Rashad's backflip. I mean, that hasn't happened. Right. That obviously shows a level of comfort that hasn't been there for whatever reason it was in the recent past. Or it could have just been he's excited to be back on the field after missing the first 2 games.
Sure.
But there was definitely an energy in the offense that I think we hadn't seen this year. It could be because of the coaching change. It could be because you have Kali and Naquan back. It's hard to say after only 1 game because so many things changed this game. So many things were different. So it's hard to point to any one thing and say, yeah, that's it. And if, like you said, it's not a knock on any coaching, or coaches have different philosophies, the way they manage their players, the way they run their offense and do things, so, it's not saying one way is better, but it could be that certain players are more comfortable with changes in those philosophies. So I could definitely see that there might've been something there with that, but it's hard to 100% say yes, because of all the other stuff.
I would say that before, the players seemed a little tentative, a little standoffish. But this game, even though there are many different factors that affected the game, I do feel there was a flow and energy, like Leo said, that was obvious on the field. Sure. That's just me. But again, many other factors contributed to that.
One of the things that we need to talk about, James Palmer a few minutes ago said this, and I want to address this. Turnover Henry. Malik Henry throws 2 interceptions, and that is not something that we are used to after last season with a quarterback that was so very careful with the ball. It seems like every interception, and I don't like them, but I think we need to understand and see in perspective what Malik Henry did on Saturday night before we write off like, oh, the guy's just, he's turning people over and turning the ball over, and we can't have that. Like, not everyone's going to be Sam Castronova. Let me read you Malik Henry's box score. 13 for 22, which is not great. It's about 50%. It's somewhere in that range. 201 yards. 5 touchdowns, 2
Not
interceptions. Bad. I will take 5 touchdowns for every 2 interceptions he throws any day.
Right.
If he'll give me 5 touchdowns, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I don't like turnovers, but I recognize that is going to happen. By the way, I mentioned this before the show to you two, and I'm gonna put on my conspiracy theory hat here for a second and say,
here we go.
I think Arizona is gaming the system a little bit.
Everybody look at Leo, because that's what he's going to talk about, the black jersey.
So if you noticed, if you watched the game, they might have even said something about this on the broadcast, which is what tipped me off on it. All of the dasher boards around the Arizona field are black with the logos of the companies on them. And then your players are wearing black jerseys, pants, and helmets. If you're a quarterback on the other team, they kind of blend in a little bit. You could make a case that they almost camouflage themselves a little. Look, I'm not making excuses for Malik Henry. Please don't throw interceptions. But I will say, as I watched the game, I was like, that's a very gamesmanship. That's a very Bill Belichick, to go back to, talking about Kevin Guy earlier. That's a very gamesmanship way to set things up. you just kind of blend into that back wall. So you could make a case that opposing quarterbacks don't ever see the guy. They miss it because it kind of blends into, I mean, think about yourself on that level, seeing the walls and seeing the players. You could see how black on black would get a little lost at times.
Almost like an optical illusion.
Home field advantage.
Raul Nava says very Boise State trick play-ish. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
Little home
What's the
cooking,
color of ours in the Freeman?
They're white.
They're white. Okay. Yeah, and we, our home uniforms. There's lots of color in it, even though the jerseys are white. So, or actually, no, they wear blue jerseys at home, don't they? So
yeah, they do.
They definitely, that's definitely a home field advantage and something that was probably calculated. I will say they got some home cooking too when it came to the clock. I several occasions where I thought the clock was either stopping or running when it shouldn't be. And it wasn't caught as many times as I thought it should have been, but that's part of home field advantage.
Yep, absolutely. I'm not saying that they are cheating or
no.
It's gamesmanship. It's well within the rules of the game. Like, you just need to be aware of it as you go into Arizona. But a little interesting. Kevin Lewis mentioning, by the way, Malik Henry also had a fumble. Yeah, that mesh point fumble was a thing that did happen.
Yeah.
James Palmer says they also have their own farm team down the road in Tucson. Yeah,
that's true too.
There is a case to be made that when the head coach's wife owns the other team, maybe there's
conflict of interest.
Some sort of, the league knows about it. It's not a secret. Everybody in the league knows about it, and so it is what it is. But yeah, some people would claim that that is problematic. So anyway, I will take 5 touchdowns for 2 interceptions. We do not have Sam Castronova in our under center. Sam is great at protecting the ball, and not that Malik is trying to throw interceptions. But I think we need to get used to the idea that interceptions are going to happen a little more often because this is a different player with a different skill set. It just is what it is.
Right.
Yes, I will say, okay, I am in the camp where I'm not quite as forgiving as you are, Philip. I do think that there are some things that need to get cleaned up and be improved on offense when it comes to Malik Henry and some decision making that has cost us. But I will give him credit in the fact that I'm looking at the stats, and I'm surprised if this is right, but I don't show him taking any sacks. And he was under duress quite a few times. So yes, I will give him credit for it not being worse than what it was with the 2 interceptions, but that's where there's got to be some improvement in the decision making where and they were down, and one of those interceptions in particular towards the end, he's just trying to make something happen on a desperation play. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But in what we've seen, the body of work we've seen so far this year, I still think he can be better. And there's been steady progression. So I'm not worried about it, but I do think it needs to be better. I'm not going to say I'm fine with him throwing 2 interceptions every game because I'm not.
Even if he gives you 5 touchdowns a game?
I don't want the interceptions. I think he can do better.
I like the 5 touchdowns though.
Yes, let me read you another stat line here. 8 for 22, 70 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. You know that guy we were talking about that's a 2-time champion?
Yeah.
That just led his team over, the San Antonio Gunslingers. He threw the same number of passes and completed less of them. He was 8 for 22 as opposed to 13 for 22. By the way, the reason we're able to talk about all this is because the IFL apparently listens to the show and got us stats for the game.
Yay!
We're actually able to see
Someone's
numbers.
listening.
I still don't have a Roku app for my TV. Get on it. But I got stats for the game. That's very helpful. Dalton Snead throws just as many passes as Malik Henry does and does less with those opportunities. And we're praising Dalton Snead and we are maligning Malik Henry. I don't know that that's fair. And James Palmer also mentions his legs did a lot of the damage.
Yeah, he had 4 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
And
That's
the rush defense was not good, and we've already discussed why we think that was.
But again,
it did irk me quite a bit that it seemed that our defense fell for the option play almost every single time. I'm like, he keeps the ball on the option play. Why is it that every time they run that option, you see a defender go after the running back? Because it's like,
look,
you go after Dalton Snead every single time because he's more likely the guy with the ball in his hands.
You just mentioned it, Leo, and we've got some other people, Raul Nava, saying not a fair comparison since they run the ball a lot. We've had a couple of people mention that, Snead did his damage running the ball. You just said that. I want to point out again, same number of attempts, 22 pass attempts. Malik Henry completed more and scored 5 touchdowns with his 22. Dalton Snead completed 8 of them and scored no touchdowns. So, yes, you're right. They made their hay running the ball, but the same number of attempts, Malik did more with his 22 than Dalton Snead did with his 22 passes.
No doubt, and that's a testament to a testament to our defensive backs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
Duck and those guys are playing lights out this season.
I agree.
So yeah, for sure. I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
Weston Cologne says Snead much more comfortable running. I'd like to see Malik run more.
Yes.
Yep.
I agree. I just don't know that that's part of the game that he wants to develop. And we've had that issue at quarterback with the Gunslingers before. In our very first season, we had a athletic quarterback who wanted to pass. He did not want to run the ball. And I will say out here on our show, just as I did back in 2021, I need a quarterback that knows when it's time to pull it down and get the yards he can get or run or make things happen. I said it back then. That quarterback took issue with the way that I talked about his play. And I still haven't changed my opinion. I need a quarterback that's not afraid to run the ball, that knows when it's time to pull it down and get what he can with his feet or get all the way through with his feet. Because I think Malik Henry is athletic and I think he can do it.
He can. But he doesn't like to take hits for sure, but no quarterback does.
No.
I will say this. The Gunslingers have the right guy to tutor him and kind of guide him and coach him on this, and their quarterback coach is Jonathan Bain. So I do think we're going to see some development there in Malik Henry. Yes. And that's why I will stand by what I said. I love the 5 touchdowns a game, but I do not want to see 2 interceptions every game. I expect there to be improvement there. There needs to be.
Yeah, just to wrap this conversation or continue this conversation. Dalton Snead's rushing line, 11 attempts, 55 yards, 1 yard loss. So 54 yards net, 4 touchdowns. Malik Henry's rushing stats, 1 attempt, no gain, 2 yards lost, negative 2 yards net, no touchdowns. So yes, that is also part of the story. I'm not trying to change the narrative here. So yes, you're correct. Like, I want to see him run out of the pocket more. I want to see him make the decision to pull down the ball and get some yards and use his athleticism. I've always said that. I think that's valuable in this game, in this style of the game. And I need a quarterback that's willing to do that. And for whatever reason, Henry doesn't seem willing to do that right now. And he may get mad at me like David got mad at me back in 2021.
Ooh.
Okay, but I haven't changed my opinion. In this style of the game, I need a quarterback that's willing to use his feet as much as he's willing to use his arm. So,
You know, one name that popped up that goes way back with the Gunslingers that I would love to see on the coaching team would be Cheeto.
hey,
I
he
think
was
he's a
checking in
great
just a
guy.
minute
Yeah,
ago.
he
He was
checked in
around
earlier.
here. Yeah. I agree. I like Cheeto. Herbert Gonzalez, Cheeto. And Coach Q has also been a
Yes,
name
both of
that
them.
I've thought of a lot. Both of those guys took over for the Gunslingers when Tony Hernandez left after the first game. And we were a really good team with those two guys leading things.
Yes, I would
So
agree.
if there's ever room on the coaching staff, they are definitely guys that I would point to and go, hey, these guys are even local. Like, go get those guys. Overall, though, I feel good about this because this particular game, because I think if our offense can keep performing like it performed on Saturday night with the return of Naquan Murray and Kali Rashad and Malik Henry getting better, and the defense can move back to where it was once we have a return of Jones, probably not Rivers if he's got another job at this point, but we
Maybe
don't know
not.
that for sure. And then Ellison Jordan. If all those guys are back in place and the defense is able to stiffen a little better, I feel really good about where this team is.
Yeah,
Hands up, baby.
we need the law firm back, and
Yeah.
and I agree. I think the offense showed some life that we hadn't seen to this season, and the defense took a step or two back. But I mean, it's understandable on why that happened. Although we don't understand what exactly happened with Jones and him getting ejected because we didn't get to see it. But stuff that sort of thing happens. You know, it's unfortunate. It was bad timing, especially considering the injury that we had with Ellison. So that was a big deficiency in our defense. And kudos to Arizona for recognizing that.
Yep.
And keying in on that the
They took
entire the
advantage,
rest
but
of the
that's
game.
what they do.
Well, to be
Yeah.
fair, you went toe-to-toe with the champions. They're 3-0 now. They have not missed a beat since they won the championship. They are returning to that form. You went toe-to-toe with them, and three things happened that while you can't control them, you had injuries, you had penalties, and that's not something you can control. You can control your discipline in the game, but when you look at the penalties and the disparity of the penalties, I feel like there was a little bit of this was not the best
Favoritism?
officiated game I've seen. Let me just say it that way. If you need stats on that, I bet I have them. Penalty stats.
Let's go. Drum roll, please.
Okay, I'll find full penalty stats in a second, but I will tell
Okay.
you that the Arizona Rattlers got 8 first downs on penalty. The Gunslingers got 3 first downs on penalties. And I'm looking to see where they list other penalty totals now, and I'm not finding them. But I will find them in a minute. I did not feel like this was one of the better officiated games. Sometimes they're
I
good.
agree.
Sometimes they're not. I didn't love this one. It is what it is. You can't do anything about it either way, you know?
Yeah, I don't
You can
think
talk
they
about
actually.
it on the podcast like we're
Here you go.
doing.
Here you go. Penalties. 13 for 94 yards against San Antonio. 4 for 55 yards against Arizona. That's a
Hello.
disparity.
One-sided.
That's a disparity.
Yes.
13 to
Favoritism.
4. 13 to 4.
That's pretty. That's a
Uncalled
pretty
for.
large disparity.
Either we were one of the most undisciplined teams ever. I don't see it that way. I don't
Which we're
see
not.
that from our team. Or so you had injuries. You can't do anything about those. Those come up. You have penalties. You cannot control the referees. You cannot You cannot make them call the game fairly. You just have to take them out of the game. We've had that discussion before. The third thing is just luck. I called this episode Snakebit today because we were a little snakebit. There were times where there were opportunities. The ball hit the turf, and we just couldn't get it. We couldn't get there. There was the fumble right along the end zone we've already talked about that went into the crowd. That was a mess. And then there was a couple of fumbles that they were able to jump on top of, either Gunslinger fumbles or Arizona fumbles that they just got to before we got to them. These things happen, but it was just really bad luck. Leo, you and I had a discussion. Go ahead, Leo.
I was going to say, and Kevin Lewis just commented a little bit undisciplined. I will say, I think some of the guys, I think you saw some clear frustration.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the frustration was because Arizona was handling us with their run game and our defense, and we tried to make adjustments, and they were still able to capitalize on, our situation on defense. And I think we saw some of that boil over in some frustrations by some of the players, which led to some of those penalties.
Yes.
Does that mean they're undisciplined? Maybe a little bit. But it's also an extraneous situation that they're not used to dealing with, on a regular basis. They have to be a little smarter. They have to reel that in a little bit.
Another thing that was just a product of bad camera work on the broadcast is we got called for a lot of illegal defenses that I could not see what they were calling because of the camera work being poor. And so I don't know if those were valid or not. We've never gotten called on that many illegal defenses before. That leads me to believe our guys know how to play this game and know the rules of the game. And for some reason, this particular crew was highlighting something that we haven't run into in 2 games previously. That's problematic to me, but I can't say that the refs were wrong because I can't see it. I'm not able to isolate it on video. I'm sure the coaches are with their video system, which is different, of course, than the broadcast. The other thing, luck-wise, Leo, I got to ask you a question. We had those, James Palmer asking, could those illegal defenses be seen better now that one ref is being moved to the offensive side of the ball? Maybe. If you do not know, I think they mentioned this briefly in the broadcast, but maybe it was one of the other broadcasts of one of the other games I watched. There was a collision between a crossing receiver and an official in a game a couple of weeks ago. As a response to that, they have moved the umpire that used to stand behind the defense, but right with the linebacker along the defense, they have moved him now to the offensive side of things. He's still responsible for watching the same areas and penalties. He's just been moved to a safer spot on the field to see it. And so, and James Palmer says they did it so they can't utilize one ref as a pick. Yeah, that happened a couple of weeks ago, and the ref the umpire got absolutely destroyed, run into, and Tom Falcinelli said, hey, let's try this out and see if we can still officiate the game this way and put our guy in a better position. So maybe that might have something to do with it.
Could be. It's a good point.
The thing about illegal defenses is so much of it is on the linebacker. Well, 2 things were different in this game. Our linebacker wasn't our usual linebacker because he got thrown out of the game. Mm-hmm. And the official stands at the spot where the top edge of the box is. So you are able to key as the linebacker off of that referee. And as long as you are connected to the line that he's standing on, you are in the proper position. Well, if that referee is now on the other side of the line of scrimmage, you no longer have that same key to
marker.
To. Right. So that's entirely possible, James. Good call. At the end of the first half, Leo, the Arizona Rattlers scored a touchdown. If you remember the play, if you've watched the game, it was a swing pass out to the running back. He catches the ball and immediately leans forward, begins to go to the ground, reaches out the ball to get over the end zone, and the ball is knocked out of his hands. The ruling on the field was that he broke the plane as he was reaching out with the ball. And, oh, no, I'm sorry. It was not. That was not the ruling on the field. The ruling on the field was he fumbled. He caught the ball, fumbled, and then they recovered. Their lineman recovered the ball. Again, bad luck if that's the way it actually happened. But in the moment, and I don't want to be the guy that questions James Fuller, but I would have thrown a challenge flag. I'm not even sure if you win the challenge, but I would have thrown the challenge flag and said, I don't think he caught that. I don't think he had possession of the ball long enough to call that a catch. It was a bang-bang thing where he catches the ball, quote unquote, and then reaches out all in one sort of fluid motion, and then the ball comes out of his hand. So is there a case to be made there that wasn't a catch? What did you think of that, Leo? Because we talked about it during halftime. We texted back and forth on this.
Yeah, I absolutely thought that was worthy of a challenge because it didn't look like he had control of the ball and could have very well gone as an incomplete pass. And it just seemed like the official that was standing there, because he allowed the time and kind of looked, and then even after it was recovered, then he called the signals for the touchdown. It just seemed like he was unsure of what was happening right in front of him.
Right.
And I thought that it could have very well been an incomplete pass, and I thought it was worthy of a challenge flag, and the challenge didn't come. Interesting point, because I completely forgot about that when the question came up earlier about coaching changes and if we notice anything different. That is one thing where I think Manas would have thrown the flag on that, because he was
maybe so.
He's a little quicker on the trigger with throwing on the flags. He liked to throw the flag, especially on big plays like that. So maybe that's an adjustment for Coach Fuller.
And a very important score. Like you need to understand what kind of impact that had on the game. Like that was a very big turning point in this game, was them scoring just as the time ran out.
Right.
Big deal. Big deal. So we lose. Nobody likes to lose.
No. Sucks.
We are now 1-2, 1-1 in conference play, which I think we need to track and pay special attention to what our conference record is, because it's likely to come into play as we get later into the season. But it's not all bad news. We're still in the top 4.
Are we in third place?
It's way too early to be tracking any of this. I understand that, but I've got the standings in front of me, and we love to talk about what might be. We are tied for third place.
Mm-hmm.
3 different folks. Us, Vegas, and San Diego, all tied at 1 and 2 in third place. Top 4 teams go to the playoffs. So we're still perfectly fine as far as that's concerned. And now we get ready for a Saturday night game against the Tulsa Oilers in Tulsa, 7:05 p.m. And I got to ask you, Leo, is this a must-win game?
Depends on how you look at it. Is it a must-win game? My answer to that is no.
Okay.
But I'm looking at it strictly as we want to get to the dance, right? We want to get to the playoffs. If losing this game is going to have a huge bearing on that and on our chances, it's a non-conference game. You look at the standings, we're still in third place. We're only 1 game back of second place. It's not do or die situation yet. So if we're looking in that sense, then I think the clear answer is no. You can't qualify this game as a must-win game.
Okay.
I don't agree. I think as a fan, this is a must win. I know we've been on the road, but I think we have to kind of get that excitement going. And I think for the fan, maybe not for the team and not for the stats and all for that placement conference, blah, 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 blah. As a fan, this is a must win. We're trying to get more people into the stadium. We're trying to get more people to the watch parties. This is a must win. That's my point.
And so you're both coming at it from different angles, which is why you have different answers. Leo's coming at it strictly from a mathematical standpoint of it's not a must win because it's not ultimately going to make or break our playoff seeding. And that's right. That's correct. It's a Eastern Conference opponent, which I don't understand how Tulsa's in the East still, but it is what it is. And it's very early in the season, so it's hard to say, yes, it's a must-win. But RC says, as a fan, I feel like it's a must-win because we don't want to come back into Freeman Coliseum on the 26th at 1-3. We want to generate some excitement. I think there are other reasons, too, RC, that I think outside of the mathematical, which Leo is right. Mathematically,
Right.
No, this is not a must-win game. But
Right.
there's one other factor that neither of you brought up that I would bring up. You've gone through a tumultuous, as they should be, coaching change.
Mhm.
True.
This team is a team that you lost to under the previous coach.
Yep.
You can wipe away. We will not talk about the coaching change very much anymore if you go out and you dominate Tulsa in Tulsa.
True. I agree.
It would be the perfect sort of, okay, that puts a cap on all of that. That early season story is done. Will we still bring it up? Well, yes, because it's part of what has happened to the Gunslingers this season. But that will cap the story and be like, okay, when they had their previous head coach, and I know it sounds like I'm trying to avoid his name, and I'm not. When they had Tom Manas, they went out and played Tulsa in San Antonio and lost. Not a game that a very tightly contested game. They didn't get beat. They go to Tulsa 4 weeks later or 5 weeks later with a new head coach, and they are able to walk into Tulsa and dominate them. Okay, everything's going to be fine. All is right in the world. We can move forward into the rest of the season confidently. In that aspect, I think it is a must, sort of
It's a
a must
confidence
win.
builder if we win.
Yes. James Palmer on his YouTube page, YouTube account. Yes and no. It's a must win. No, because it's in it's not a conference game. He's right. He's correct. Like mathematically, no. It's not a must win game. It can't. If we have a must win game this early in the season, things are bad.
True.
We are 0-3 and trying to get the first win, and then it's a must win game. That's not where we're at. We're 1-2. But I think it would be great to come back into Freeman Coliseum at 2-2. And I think putting a cap on this story so that we don't have to keep peeking back at the coaching change, which we're all going to do until we win one. Like until they win a game, we're all going to peek back and go, was this the right move? Did the right thing happen here? I think that's just natural. I think that's a normal thing for fans to do. Am I wrong?
Nope.
I think you're right.
I agree.
Two valid reasons.
That's what.
Just your point of view is different.
I agree. That's why I said it depends on which way you look at it, on how you answer this question. But yeah, there are a lot of reasons why things will be a lot better for the team, the organization, and the fan base if they win this game this weekend.
I tend to agree.
We all agree? Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, isn't that great? I'm actually looking right now. Jason Wood brought up a great point. He said he was under the impression right there at the end of the half they had no timeouts to challenge the fumble.
That would explain it, yeah.
And that would explain it. And so now I'm digging through the play-by-play to see if they list timeouts and if I can track timeouts. This is probably not something I need to do while we are live.
Well, while you're doing that, let me go ahead and address the comment from Coach Q. So the one thing that stood out for me was the D-line. They were not putting too much pressure on the quarterback. We talked about this a little bit already, Coach, before you joined us, and welcome. We actually gave you a shout out earlier.
Just mentioned you, yeah.
Yeah. It's like he heard us. But there were, we had some big losses on defense. We had our leading tackler, our captain out there on the field, our linebacker who was out because of, penalty being ejected. So, that's on him. Depending on how that ejection was given, which we didn't get to see because the camera work on the broadcast we talked about was a little shaky and we never got to see what exactly happened. So we have no clue. But the bigger thing was the injury to Ellison, the nose tackle on defense, which really threw things off on the defense, but not in a sense of getting pressure on the quarterback, but in the sense of Arizona's focus on offense became run the ball, attack that point in the middle of the D-line where there was a deficiency because the Gunslingers had injuries and they had guys that were admirably, I'm not knocking them, but they were out of position. They weren't playing their normal position. First, they had the center in there trying to play nose tackle. So he's playing both ways on offense and on defense. Then they moved over the guy from the edge and then brought in Lacoby Tucker, who normally plays O-line, and had him on the edge so they could move what's his name? Thomas to nose tackle. And that seemed to be a little bit better, but Arizona definitely recognized that the Gunslingers were having problems adjusting there after the injury, and they took full advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Yep. Again, we got the comment here from James Palmer. If I recall, several drives they marched down the field and didn't even throw the ball. Yep. Every play was a run. Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
The running game was strong.
Apparently, they do not track timeouts in the play-by-play, so we can't go back and look at that. And I also tried to go back and look at the video to see if the score bug gave it to me, and it does not.
Who would know? Ralph would know.
Ralph would know, and Ralph may be watching. So there's that. But I
Ralph,
really,
where are you? Answer the question.
And honestly, even if you don't have a timeout, I would still drop the challenge flag and make them tell me that I couldn't challenge it.
There you go.
Just to make sure everybody knows I disagree. I don't think they scored that touchdown. Because it was an important part of the game. It was an important
Is that a penalty if you throw the flag and you don't have a touchdown?
It could be a delay of game penalty, but speaking of delay of game penalties, we had a return, Leo, of our favorite penalty in the IFL.
Which one was that?
We were penalized delay of game for giving the ball after a touchdown to a fan.
You see, I'm having that.
Where's the ball?
How do I? I'm trying to adjust that ball right there. That might
there you go.
For those of you that are watching, that was the first time we had that penalty. Yeah.
James Palmer said this time it was not me. Yeah. He even handed it to an Arizona fan, a kid in the Arizona crowd. Like he hands it off to a Rattler fan, a kid that's enjoying the game, just trying to be a good ambassador of the sport.
Good guy.
And he gets penalized for it. This is a stupid penalty. This penalty needs to be dealt with at the league level. I hope our ownership is paying attention and will lobby hard next year in the offseason to get rid of this. This penalty doesn't matter. Doesn't count. Shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, James is right, actually. Now that I think about that game at Frisco, that was the first ball that Kali handed over And then he came and did it a second time, and that's when they threw the flag. They didn't catch the first one. So, yes, you're correct.
He said they didn't call yours. They only
Yeah.
called it when he gave me the ball. And again, that's and he asked earlier, isn't it a penalty if you drop the challenge flag and you technically can't? If it is, I'll take the penalty. I want everybody to know that I disagree. I think you called that wrong. I want to draw attention to the fact that I don't think that was a touchdown.
On the delay of game penalty, I do have something to add that was discussed there at Sideliners. It was an idea from Alex McSwain, because he asked about that penalty, wondering like why it's a penalty to begin with.
Right.
That they allow the home team to distribute balls as much as they want, but not the visiting team. And I said, well, the only thing that really makes sense is that they're trying to save, it's a financial decision.
Yes.
If the home team wants to give out their balls to the crowd, they can do that and do that freely. But the visiting team is giving away the home team's money, basically, which isn't theirs, and they're giving that out to fans.
Yes.
And it's basically, it's a penalty to discourage that, because, I guess it's something you might be doing intentionally. I don't know. But Alex McSwain said, well, why do they have to make it impactful on the game in such a delay of game penalty when it's just a player? Naquan was just handing the ball to a young fan. He thought he was doing something cool for that kid, at the time. And why not make it the same sort of thing? This is Alex's idea. I'm not taking credit for it. I thought it was a good idea. The same type of situation where when they kick a field goal and the ball goes out into the crowd, you have to give it back. You're not allowed to keep a ball in that situation. When a player on the visiting team hands it to you, you have to give the ball back in that situation. Yeah, why not?
Sure.
I'll go a step further. I got this figured out. IFL, are you listening? I'm going to fix this problem for you. Not that it's a big problem for you. You don't care. But you should care, because it's a stupid penalty. So it's not a penalty anymore. It's a fine. And it's not a fine on the player, because these players don't make a whole lot. But you instead fine the team double what a ball costs. So if Naquan Murray hands the ball off to a fan and those balls cost $100, I don't know what they cost, but there's something in that range, I'm sure.
They're expensive.
You then fine the San Antonio Gunslingers $200. Now, the coaches and the general managers, everybody is going to discourage that activity on the team level. Please don't give away the other team's balls. That cost us money. But it's not something that affects the in-game play. So you still discourage the practice and keep the home team's balls from being just given away like candy, but you do not affect the actual play on the field with what is a ridiculous penalty. This is how you need to fix it.
It really shouldn't affect the other. It's just fans being excited, I just don't see how that it shouldn't affect the game the way it is. I don't like that at all. It's silly.
Yeah, I don't think it should affect the game on the field, and I think there's a way that you can do this. Keep a ledger all year long and then settle up at the end of the year. My guess is you're going to find out that everybody comes out about even because, we had to pay Arizona because one of our guys gave away a ball, but then we got some money from Vegas because one of their guys forgot and gave out one of our balls. And, oh, look, it all balanced anyway. Financially, it's not affecting us as badly as we thought it was. This is the right answer. This is the way to fix this.
They really spend that much money on those lost balls?
They're expensive. They're not cheap.
They are expensive. And I'll submit this, Philip, off of your idea, piggybacking, because I don't necessarily think it's fair to charge the visiting team or to fine them when they're just for the player just doing something that he's engaged with the fan base, which is part of what this league likes and promotes. It says you're right there on top of the action. You can engage the fans, you can engage the players. during the game and after the game. This is something different that the IFL offers that you can't find anywhere else. Okay, so that's a visiting team doing that, and then you're finding them for it. How about this? If
I have an idea.
If owners are worried about losing too many balls during a game, how about you offer an incentive to return those balls? If a fan gets a ball and elects to return it, they can collect 2 free tickets to the next game in exchange for that ball.
Or a merch voucher.
Everybody wins.
Or they have to donate, let's say $100 to one of the community charities in that other city. I think that's a win-win.
I really think the idea of, hey, we're gonna find teams, because look, you can't find players. These players do not make enough money for you to say, hey, you gave away a ball, we're taking half of your game check away.
No.
You just can't.
No, yeah.
That's not fair. We can't do that. But if the teams know that that's the deal, and they discourage it on the team level, and then we finish out a season, and that's an important part of this. I don't want it to happen week over week. I want to wait till the end of the season and then settle up, because I want everybody in that ownership meeting to look at it and go, wow, this is actually not a problem that we need to be addressing this way. We don't have a problem that we think we have. And so that's what I would really like to see is they look at it and go, wow,
I want to see
never
those
mind.
stats.
This is not a problem the way we think it is. So Weston says the Rattlers should thank Naquan because the young Rattler fan had a memorable experience. That's what's funny about that is they took that ball away from that fan. I watched it. I watched
They did.
the Rattlers stadium crew went over and took that ball away if I didn't see things wrong. Gunslingers are all about fan experience, and we're excited for a fan that catches a ball or that goes out of bounds. That's the thing is, you don't penalize Naquan Murray when he throws a ball out of bounds in Arizona. And please don't start doing that because, oh, wait, that guy on Smoking Guns has a great
Don't blame us.
No, you mean Malik Henry throws a ball out of bounds, not Naquan Murray.
Either one of them. No, yeah, you're right. Malik Henry throws the ball out of bounds. You don't penalize him. I really think you could fix this a different way and not have it. It's one of the issues that the IFL changed a lot of rules this season. Yeah, Weston is like, what? That's really disappointing. They took the ball away. Go back and check it again because I may not have seen what I thought I saw, but I'm almost certain that the stadium staff came over and took that ball away.
Fact checker.
Or facilitated that ball being returned somehow. That
sucks.
That is kind of
what happened. Yeah.
I don't like that at all. I just don't think it's the problem that they think it is, and I think if they could track it, they would look at it and go, "Oh, we're making mountains out of molehills here." That's not cool. Shame on them for taking the ball away. James says again, go back and check. I would hate to be getting them in trouble that they didn't earn, but I'm almost certain. I'm almost certain that's what I thought. It's a dumb penalty. Oh, what I was saying earlier, a lot of the IFL rule changes this year were precipitated on the idea of we need to make this game easier for the casual fan to understand what's happening. So there was a kickoff rule that we had up until this year where if you kick it out of bounds, the first time you do it, the ball's placed on the 20-yard line. But the second time you do it, it's placed on the 25. And fans were confused. They're like, wait, why did you do it that way this time and this way this time? And it was confusing. And so they came out and said, we want them. And illegal defenses didn't make sense to fans. I don't understand why you're flagging them for blitzing the quarterback. Aren't you allowed to blitz in football? So they made things easier for the fans to understand. Well, if that's true to the leadership of the IFL, if that is something that you're looking for, fans do not understand this. We are fans, and we do not understand the penalty even once it was explained to us, and we had to get it explained to us first, and we still don't understand why this is a thing. So if you're trying to make the casual fan feel better about your sport and feel like they know what's going on, this rule does not help that.
True.
This rule, in fact, hurts that. So fix it. It's a dumb rule. Fix it and get me a Roku. You're free to go now.
Get me a Roku.
Get me a Roku app. You're free to go now.
That'll make it better.
You can go back to whatever you were doing. Not a great penalty, and I don't like it, and I want it to change, and that's okay. I don't have to love everything that happens, but I would like to see some change here. So we go into Tulsa. What are you hoping to see Saturday night as we head up to Tulsa to play the Oilers there in the barren wasteland that is Oklahoma?
Me, ultimately, I'm hoping Ellison Jordan is healthy.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
It would be very nice. If not, then they've got some time to make adjustments and figure that out. I don't know if that means bringing someone else in or moving someone over and doing all that. But we want our guys healthy. So
Yes.
DJ Myers is on IR and Albert Jones. I don't think they're eligible to return yet because I think it's a minimum of 2 weeks, right? So
it is, but they were both placed on IR. My understanding
right.
is they were placed on IR before the bye week, and the bye week counts. So both
good.
of them, if they are
Eligible.
would be able to return. But you need to remember that there is this other stupid rule that the IFL has that limits
Not another one.
Yes, another one that limits the number of veterans you can have on your game day roster to 7. And both Uric Jones and DJ Myers are veterans.
I hate that rule.
And so you're going to have to play some Tetris.
You have to juggle. You have to juggle
to make this work. If you want those two guys back too, there are going to be guys that we really love that are going to get left out. Plain and simple.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But yeah, that is the stupidest rule. It's a stupid. I understand why they do it, but also look at it this way. And again, I'm not going to take credit for this perspective, but it's something else that Alex McSwain brought up in our discussion at Sideliners at the watch party. Think about how much talent the IFL loses to other leagues because of the veteran rule.
True.
That basically gives talent to some of the competing leagues because they're no longer eligible to be on the rosters that they want to be in the locations they want to be at or with the coaches who they want to play for.
Yep.
So they go and they play somewhere else in a different league. This rule is terrible. It needs to go away.
It does. It needs to go away. As we're beginning to wind down the show, if you have Bull Spit and Bullseye for the game against Arizona, your favorite part of the game, your least favorite part of the game, make sure you get those in. We'll go through all of those in a second, the ones that we get, and we will give our Bull Spit and Bullseye history between the San Antonio Gunslingers and the Tulsa Oilers. They have met 2 times. It's 1-1. Back in May of last year, Tulsa traveled in to the Freeman Coliseum and left with their tail between their legs, 54-43. The Gunslingers defeated them. And then, of course, we all remember the 22nd of March this year as the season opened. The Tulsa Oilers came in and avenged that loss from last year, 28-20. Took our home opener away from us, and James Palmer says maybe we should just spoil Tulsa's season opener, home opener, like they did ours. Sounds good.
There
to me.
you go.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Weston says, do other arenas have veteran rules, other arena leagues? And Coach Q right on top of that says, no, sir, they do not. That is something exclusive to the IFL, to my knowledge. The veteran rule is something exclusive to the IFL, and it is because there was once a team up in Spokane that absolutely destroyed the league. They were the champions for, what was it, Leo, 6 or 7 straight years or something like that?
7 straight years, yeah.
They dominated the league, and so the ownership got together and tried to think of a way that they could create a little more parity in the league. And one of those ways was to not allow Sioux Falls Storm to consistently have the same players year after year. And so they put this rule in place. That's my understanding of how that came about in the IFL. That time is long gone. I think the parity would return to the league the way things are now if they got rid of this rule. They need to get rid of this rule. That's the second one this week that we've just, you know what? Make me.
Can we start a petition?
Why don't we just make me the head of the competition committee? I don't want to be the commissioner. He's got a big job and he does that very well, but just make me the head of the competition committee. And I'll go fix all this stuff. How about that? Let's just do that.
Here.
I'm going to start a petition.
So that is your history between Tulsa and San Antonio. 2 games, 1-1. Somebody is going to walk into Tulsa and win the third one, win the rubber match between these two, and it's going to be the Gunslingers. We know that.
That's right, baby.
Yep.
Guns up.
Another week of preparation, another week to get guys healthy, another week to get the chemistry down. I mean, just think about it. If I had told you before this week that Naquan Murray would come back and have 3 receiving touchdowns in his first game back of the season, and Kali Rashad would come back and have 2 return touchdowns in his first game back of the season, would you have had any doubt that the Gunslingers lose that game just knowing those 2 facts?
Crazy, right?
No way. No way.
No way.
They lost because of some extenuating circumstances, mostly on the defensive side, injury, penalties. We all know what happened, and Arizona took advantage of it. That's part of the game. That's football. I'm not crying about it. They get the W. But now they're going to go out, Tulsa and the Oilers, and they're going to have, some time to get healthy. I really pray that Ellison is not something serious, and more time for them to practice and get even more comfortable with each other, with Kali Rashad and Naquan Murray back for this offense and special teams. I can't wait.
A little more context to the game. We know our record. We're 1-2, and we know how we got there. But Tulsa is also 1-2. They defeated the San Antonio Gunslingers all the way back in March in the Freeman Coliseum. Since that time, they have still been on the road at Fisher's Freight and at Green Bay. Lost both of those games. They lost to Fisher's Freight 40-29. And then this week, they lost to Green Bay in Green Bay 74-68. Heck of a game.
Close game.
High scoring game, close game, and they were not able to come away victorious out of that game either. Now they open up at home with the 1-2 record, welcoming in the San Antonio Gunslingers on Saturday night. And
it won't be easy.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of go back to a point that I kind of look at a lot. When I'm watching the game, I look at the stands. And again, a shout out to Jordan, because I did not see that many fans wearing the gear of the Rattlers. And it's almost every shot that you see in the San Antonio games that you see someone wearing one of our merchandise. So again, shout out to Jordan and to the team, because you're always pushing merchandise, which is great. I love it, because you can tell in the stands.
I think there was quite a bit of Rattlers. And to be fair,
there was some more than others, but not like us.
Yeah.
They have an expansive history. Like, they have years and years and years of merchandise out there. This team has been around since the 90s.
Yeah.
And so there is merchandise out there for the Rattlers that we may not have.
So I'll say this: there was merch out there in the stands, RC. There was at least that's what I saw. But I know why RC feels this way, because their
dull.
merch is dull.
Yeah,
the colors they don't pop, they don't stand out.
They
The
don't.
designs
Not
aren't
on the
what
camera,
we're used
not on
to
TV.
here in San Antonio at the Freeman Coliseum in Gunslingers Nation. That's why it's harder to pick out that merch when you're looking at the camera work during the games and seeing in the fan stands, because it's dull. It doesn't stand out. It looks like it's just an ordinary T-shirt or an ordinary cap. Nothing special. Certainly not anything you're going to throw a ton of money at. So I think that's why RC feels that way.
yeah.
Plus, the fans are so close to the wall, you don't see their jerseys, you don't see their shirts. You just see you see the wall, and then you see their heads, and you don't really get. So you'd have to look up and expand your view to see that. So I love how we have our stadium where you actually can see some of the fans, and they're not right up against the wall.
Right.
But you're right, definitely our merchandise stands out.
Yep.
You want to know the best thing about this game coming up in Tulsa?
What's the best thing about it?
Tell us.
It's the last one on this road trip, and the next time we play football after that game, we
Yay!
are back to the Freeman Coliseum. We
For
welcome
3
in.
straight.
No, that's all right.
Oh wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong schedule.
I wish that were true, but that's not right.
No, yeah, you're right.
No, we are in
3 out of 4.
Yeah, 3 out of 4. There you go. Much better. That'll be a blast. Being back in Freeman Coliseum, I've missed it. I'm ready to get back into Freeman and get back up there in the bird's eye view of the field and calling the game. I know the fans are ready to get back in there, and make sure you're ready to bring your friends to the game.
What's the theme for that game so I can start preparing?
Fiesta. Fiesta. Weston says, I'm not sure if I missed this, but before the show was over, shout out to our thicker kicker. He had another great game, and it really looks like he's having fun out there. Great addition to the team. He is absolutely a great addition to the team. There you go. There's your Fiesta medal.
Fiesta medal. You can't get it to focus on there, but it says 6 shooters right there in the middle. It's like,
yeah.
We love it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe next year we need a medal. The Smoking Guns podcast.
Slow your roll.
Oh, come on. That'd be so much fun.
Hey,
and then we can donate the proceeds to one of our communities.
Sure. We'll talk about that as we get closer.
I have to address Weston's comment about thicker kicker.
Yeah.
About Hudel, Tyler Hudel. He has done an excellent job since coming out. Yes, we do need a Smoking Guns podcast hat. We had a very limited run of them, but we need to have some more. But the Tyler Hudel has been fantastic since he came. There's two examples of the Smoking Guns podcast hats.
Very early on. Very early on. We had our hats made.
But to finish my thought on the thicker kicker, Tyler Hudel, he's been fantastic since he's come on. I mean, I think he had, he was responsible for 9 points in our win, and then did another exceptional job, had another rouge in the game yesterday.
Yeah,
didn't quite reach 9 points. But on that subject, his very first career kick comes out and he makes a deuce. And I still want the fact checkers, we need to find out if that's the first time that's happened.
Right.
But got everyone all excited, like, oh my God, he just came in and knocked it through like it was nothing, like that's incredible. And then he had the rouge shortly after that, and got everyone excited. And since then, it doesn't seem like I'm not gonna say the deuce isn't part of his
repertoire.
Yeah, his repertoire or his weapons. but it seems like it's not part of the kicking philosophy. They rather have him, and he's very good at those kicks that kind of bounce around and get into the end zone and try and get those rouges. But I still wish I would see a little bit more of the deuce attempts during the game.
I miss it.
And we haven't seen too many of that. I even started a little deuce chant at the watch party, and of course it wasn't to be. But as much as he's shown, and that he's shown the capability of making the deuce, I have to wonder why that isn't more a part of the kicking game or the kicking philosophy from the coaches at this point.
James has a theory. I think it kind of lines up with mine. The squib kick only works if your defense can stop the other team. I think with the defense that we have, pinning them back as far as you can is a good strategy, is a valuable strategy, and maybe that is why things are what they are and why they're doing that or doing that way. But yeah, the deuce is fun. Let's see a couple of shots a game. Look, last year I felt like we went for the deuce too often. I think there's absolutely a time you can overdo it on deuce attempts, but I would like to see the shot taken occasionally.
Attempted.
Yeah, absolutely. Bull spit and bullseye as we begin to wrap up the night. James steps in and says his bullseye are returning players. Bull spit is the loss. I always get such a hard time from everybody for making everyone else go first. So this time I'll take it upon myself to go first. My bullseye, Kali Rashad and 2 touchdown returns. I am the only one on this podcast that will point that out. You, the first one, the only one. No, I almost texted Leo. Almost texted Leo dibs on Kali Rashad's 2 touchdown returns as my bullseye of the week. It was fun. It was fun to watch.
Yeah.
I want to see more of them. Kali has been a part of this team since the very beginning.
That's
and
true.
I would like to see him always be successful as long as he's part of the team. And I think he was truly frustrated last season with the number of times that he wasn't able to break one free. And to see him joyfully get past that was cool. That's my bullseye. My bull spit is the camera work specifically, but overall the production of the game from Arizona. And the reason it's my bull spit is I expect more. I think they are better than what they put out on the airwaves on Saturday night. Camera was bad. Announcers did not know the rules well. They made comments that I didn't like. As far as in any case, I could go deep into that. I don't need to because I'm not trying to dog on their production, but I think they are much better than the production that they put forward on Saturday night. And I was very frustrated through most of the game with the production that we watched. They can do better. I expect better from a franchise like Arizona. And so that has to be my bull spit this week. RC, what are your bullseye and bull spit?
Bullseye is going to be return of Kali number 5. That's big for me. It was great seeing him back. There was like a renewed passion I saw in him. Very excited to be on the field, and we missed him. So I was really excited about that. Bull's fit would be the penalty with the ball. I don't understand why. We've talked in length about that, so I don't have to go over that. But I think that rule is stupid.
I agree. Leo, bullseye, bull spit.
Well, my bullseye, I don't care what you say, Philip. I don't care. You can't call dibs on
what's. I already used it. You got to pick something else. You got to pick something else. Pick something else.
If you're a hardcore gunslinger fan and you have your heart pumps and bleeds red, white, and blue of the Gunslingers, that this is an obvious week for the bullseye of the return of Kali Rashad at number 5, having 5
That's
on
right,
it with
baby.
2
We're back. We're
kickoff
back on top.
returns, and the return of Naquan Murray, number 8, looking great, making those spectacular catches, having 3 touchdowns. I mean, those 2 guys, are huge parts of Gunslinger, the Gunslingers organization over the past couple of years. And Kali Rashad from the very beginning, it was awesome to see that. There's no way I can't make that my bullseye.
You got to pick something else.
That's what it
my
is.
bullseye. You got to pick something else.
That was mine too.
Bullseyes. We can share bullseyes. For the bull spit, I have to say the bull spit for me is the second consecutive game where we get a significant injury to our team.
Yeah.
The Gunslingers have been pretty lucky over the years and pretty fortunate of not having to suffer too many of these types of situations.
Right.
And now we've had 2 games in a row where we've had injuries to significant members of the San Antonio Gunslingers. And I'm just praying and hoping these guys get better and get better quickly. We don't know the situation for Ellison at this time, and just hoping it's something that's minor and we have him back quickly, and DJ back. We have Miss Tina. Yes, sending love out to DJ, who's the captain of the team. Hopefully that he's back soon and healthy. We want all our guys healthy. Tough decisions will have to be made, obviously, because of the rules.
Yep.
But we want all our guys healthy first and foremost.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what happens when everybody's healthy, because I think we have too many veterans, and that means guys that we like and we want to see on the field are going to have to maybe rotate when they can and cannot be active. That's not fair to ask them, but that's not our rule. We didn't create that rule. Our coaches aren't responsible for that rule. They're doing their best to play within the rules that they've been given by a league that has made it hard for a team that's gathered guys together that just happen to be veterans in the sport. Is what it is. People are going to get their feelings hurt. There are going to be times where guys get put on the inactive list for the week and they're not going to like it. They shouldn't like it. It's not right and it's not fair. They should be able to play if they're well. If they're able to play, they should be able to play. Unfortunately, that's just the league that we live in right now, and hopefully it changes. And so what was your bullseye since you didn't have one? Because you just said mine. So what was your bullseye?
No. You stole mine by going first. If I recall, if you want to call as far as dibs, I made a declaration. Was it 2-3 years ago now that I said to everybody out there that I didn't care what you thought, Kali Rashad, number 5, is my favorite football player on the planet.
Right.
Not in this league.
That is true.
That.
Not in this league, on the planet. In any league, any team, that's my guy. Nothing but love for Kali Rashad, and there's no way that's not going to be my bullseye coming back. You can hold your breath if you want, Philip.
I'm so excited that we are going to be back in Freeman Coliseum in less than 2 weeks. I am ready to get there, but I want to see our Gunslingers come in at 2-2, and they're going to. I don't see any reason why they can't beat Tulsa. Tulsa is, I don't know how they beat us the first time. Like, they've got a really good quarterback.
We can beat them.
They've got a really good quarterback, and past that, I just don't know that I see a lot on their team that worries me. And a quarterback is only optimal when he has other guys, other weapons around him. And I don't think they have near the weapons that we have in San Antonio as part of the Gunslingers. So we'll see how it works out. I sure hope and pray that we will win. I know we will win.
We got this.
Don't forget.
I got a good feeling.
Don't forget to check out Ralph and whoever he has as guests on Wednesday night as branded comes to you with the Gunslinger side of things. We just talked about this. I was a guest on Branded last week, and he said, you know what? What's a point in having two Gunslinger shows? And we determined that the reason that there are two Gunslinger shows is it's communication. The Gunslingers are able to communicate with us, the fans, through their podcast, which is Branded. And then we, the fans, are able to communicate what we want to see to the team and the league. And one of the ways we can do that is through the Smoking Guns podcast. This is just communication back and forth. We have this avenue and they have that avenue. It's not the only way, but it is a way that is opened up for us to communicate with the fans. Jen says, hope to see y'all Saturday at the watch party at Sideliners. There you go.
Shout out to Jen. And there's some breaking news, I guess, because we weren't sure if the watch party was going to be at the same location. So thanks for that, Jen. But shout out to Jen because she was all over the place at this watch party and talking to fans and engaging everyone and having a great time. And she was a big part of the celebration there throughout the game. And then also I want to give her credit because I walked over and asked some questions about some Gunslinger history. It didn't have anything to do with what was going on that night. And Jen just turned around and she was like this with the answers to these questions, some historical questions I was wondering about
awesome.
Certain player. And she's just like, yeah, she was all over it and knew exactly the answers to what I was wondering. So yeah, Jen is definitely a huge fan of this team.
Kevin Lewis asks a great question and highlights something I was just talking about. Kevin says, quick question, is Jones, that being Jordan Jones, suspended for the next game? And the reason he asked that question is in some leagues, I think it is this way in the NFL. If you are suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, it is for a game. And so if you are suspended in the second half of a game, you have to sit out the first half of that next game or something along that line. They balance it out so that you can't get two unsportsmanlike conduct penalties at the end of a game, get thrown out for the rest of the game, and then be back on the field in the first quarter of the next game. I don't know the answer to that question when it comes to the IFL. However, now you, a fan, have asked that question along the fan way we communicate to each other and get our questions up to the team. I will definitely reach out to the team and to Ralph and see if they can find that answer before Wednesday night. And they should be able to provide us some sort of clarity about what Jones's status will be as we go into the game in Tulsa and whether my feeling is he was ejected so early that he was basically ejected for an entire game. It was early in the first half. And so I feel like that satisfies that full ejection, but I'm sure the IFL has a rule on it and we need to do some research. And so I will look into it, but I will have the team and I will have Ralph be looking for it. And you should be able to get an answer on Branded on Wednesday night. Boom.
Yes.
Tina says, Leo, love your perspective on the game. You are spot on. That's why we have him here. He's always got a great perspective on the game. We are the Smoking Guns podcast. We are a podcast that deals with football in San Antonio, specifically the San Antonio Gunslingers of the Indoor Football League. We are brought to you by some amazing, amazing folks that are our patrons. And I don't think I've mentioned them for the past 2 weeks, and that's on me. I am a bad guy. I am the guy you should blame. But those people are Alfred Rodriguez, James Palmer, Jamar Washington, or Jay Washington, as he's known to by you guys, Jordan and James Stuving, Kim and Greg Nelson, Mo and Iris Ferrante. They help us pay the bills and keep the lights on and keep the internet connected so that we can do this show, figuratively speaking. I do not use them to pay my electric bill or my internet bill. But we do have bills or my Roku account. We do have bills as a team. We do have to get those, or as a show, we have to get those paid, and they help us do that. We are so glad that they are part of that. And if you would like to be a part of that and help us make that content go all year round, you can join us by going to patreon.com/Smoking Guns Pod. That's smoking no G, guns with a Z, POD. and be a part of our Patreon crew and get shout outs like this and be those folks that we thank every episode, whether we mention it on the show or not. James says, no biggie. We don't do it for the clout or the mentions. True. But we need to make sure we mention and thank you for what you do. We
appreciate it. Yes.
For the show.
And I want to give a shout out to Leo, even though we don't cover another league. Years ago, he brought up the name Luis Perez, and he has his own book. Yep. And so I was sure to get this as soon as I could. The reason is we know some of these players, even Cheeto, this other players in different leagues, and we still follow them and we still support them. Yeah. And I think that's what's great about this podcast is that we still have connections with players because we were there in the beginning, from the Commanders, we were there in the beginning for the Gunslingers, and we follow our players. We follow the families, the moms, so if I can get this signed, I'm just putting it out there. That would be great.
Nice. That would be awesome.
You bet.
And Leo, you called it way in the beginning about him.
Like our second show that we ever did back in the Command Post podcast days. He said, watch out for this Luis Perez guy. He's the guy I would want on my team. And he has proven to be an absolutely spectacular player when it comes to spring football. The Brahmas, on the other hand.
That's a different story.
Hey, better this week. A lot better this week.
Yeah.
Hey, we talked about feeling better after a loss. I definitely feel some encouragement, although they got a tough task ahead of them. So I still don't. I still can't say I'm confident they're not coming home to the Alamo Dome for the first time and being 0-4. They got a huge task ahead of them this week, but they definitely look better this week than they have in the first couple of weeks.
But for a guy that is trying to get to the NFL, for a guy that is trying to make his name, he has made a big name out on social media, destroying Donald De La Haye to kick a 55-yard field goal earlier in the game.
Oh, yeah. That broke my heart, man.
And then come out for the 53-yard tying field goal that would send the game into overtime and give the Brahmas a chance for their first win of the season and just miss. Miss
badly.
Badly is rough. That one kick will set his goal back quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's not fair.
No.
He made a 55-yarder earlier. He can hit that kick. He didn't hit that kick, though, and that will be the thing that scouts and other people point to and go, look, he folds under pressure, which is not fair, but that's what they'll say.
It made it tough, too, because they highlighted his story, during the game. Yeah. And so you were really rooting for him. It just totally broke my heart when he missed that kick. I broke my heart for him, not as a fan, like it broke my heart because I really wanted the win. Yep. I did want the win, but it broke my heart for him that was his moment, really. Yeah. And I'm sorry, man.
What's his name? Adrian Peterson that made the big kicks last year in Michigan. Now he's playing in the NFL. We've seen Parker Romo go from the Brahmas into the NFL and do some kicking up there. There is a pathway there. My guy, Brendan Aubrey, who kicks for the Cowboys, started out in the USFL. So there's definitely a pathway there. He really set himself back on that pathway, missing this kick. And that's not fair. I'm not saying that's the way it works. That's not fair because he can make that kick and he made a 55-yarder earlier in the game. But that's not the one anybody will remember. People will remember this one, this 53-yard that he missed to send it to overtime. And that stinks.
I think he will, and I hope he will have an opportunity to vindicate himself. I think he will.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, as far as the Brahmas go, man, if your head coach can't coach on game day, he's not your head coach.
Prayers out for Wade, man. I hope he's better soon, or he gets over what he's dealing with.
2 of the 3 games the Brahmas have played, he has been unable to be on the sidelines and coach. That stinks. I like Wade. We've had this discussion over and over again. I want nothing but the best for Wade, but when your head coach can't coach on the field, he's not your head coach. and that's rough. James asks,
We covered a lot today.
Who was the one kicker who was garbage guy and got discovered by messing around kicking stuff? I know vaguely what you're talking about, but I would have to. That was an old story, right?
Fact checker.
You're not talking about something recent. You're talking about an older story that was a big deal at one time, and I have to go look into that. So I will try to maybe have that next week if I remember.
He played for the Eagles.
Okay. Look at that.
I don't remember the guy's name.
Look at that, Leo.
Leo, Johnny on the spot. Yeah, he said it's an older guy. Yeah. Okay, why not? We'll take a moment. Philly Eagles. Kicker. Garbage man. The garbage picking, field goal kicking, Philadelphia phenomenon. Yes, it was a movie with Tony Danza in it. I remember this
Tony
now.
Danza.
It's a garbage man who becomes a player.
Arnie Gorman.
There you go.
That was on the tip of my tongue.
I am looking to see if the stupid Tony Danza movie. I'm sorry, the Tony Danza movie was. I'm sure it was inspired by Arnie Borman. Feel bad for Donald De La Haye. Hey, when it comes to indoor football and the best indoor football experience, I don't think you're going to find it up in San Jose.
Nope.
I don't think you're going to find it over in Phoenix.
Nope.
Not down in Jacksonville. Not up in Green Bay. When it comes to the best indoor football experience, the 210 has got something to say.
Bang, bang.
All right, folks. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. 2 hours and 1 minute. We were so very close.
So very close.
Almost.
Almost.
If we hadn't gone off on some tangent about some garbage man kicker, we'd
I do
yeah,
remember,
that was it. That was it.
I do remember the
Ted
name of
Danza.
that.
Well, not Ted Danza. What's his name? The
Tony
actor?
Tony Danza.
Tony Danza.
Tony.
What a stupid name for a movie, too. The garbage picking, field goal kicking Philadelphia phenomenon. Like, no, thank you.
Too long.
I'll tell you a story now that we're done with the show proper. My first real job was in retail. My first real adult paying my bills and my rent job was in retail. I worked at Blockbuster.
Ooh.
And we had this movie on the shelves.
No way.
Yes, absolutely. And that long, ridiculous name, it's just it's something that stands out to you when you work at Blockbuster because names mean something in your computer system, on your wall, in your shelves, and all of those kind of things. And I hated this movie because I thought it was a stupid idea for a movie, but I also hated this movie because of the problems it could create for us at Blockbuster. That's where I met my wife. I was my wife's training manager at Blockbuster and asked her out. I don't think you're supposed to do that, but I did
I was
that.
going to say, yeah, that's probably against company policy.
Probably so. Hey, a couple of you guys went and liked and rated and reviewed, and I saw that. I wanted to make sure I said thank you. And if you haven't done that, please go do that.
Nice.
It helps us out as a show. But thank you for those of you that rated and reviewed us, whether that's on Facebook. Alex McSwain went and did that on Facebook. Or on Apple Podcasts. James went and did that on Apple Podcasts. I have not seen the review yet. I need to go back and take a look. But
he said my giant mug made it onto the review.
I'm sure it did. Wow. James says it's a good thing Blockbuster's out of business. You can't get in trouble. Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Bye, y'all.
Be kind to rewind. Easter. Absolutely, bye. James. CRC. See everybody Easter. Else. We will put the show out tomorrow. Make sure you download it, even if you don't listen, and give us a like and rate and review and push more people toward the show so that they can get connected to Gunslingers posse. With that being said, we're going to head off. Thank you so much for those of you stuck behind, and we will talk to you very soon. make sure you catch Brandon on Wednesday night and hang out with Ralph and whoever he has on. See you guys later. Adios.